politics on the All In Network. It's the Real to Real, the Jump Off, with your host, Walt the Damage and Rob Cooper Jr. Music by DNA Beats. And now, All In Politics.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Welcome back to the All In Network, the All In podcast platform. I am the illustrious host for this afternoon, along with my partner, and I go by the name of Walt the Damager.
And at Rob Cooper Jr. on Instagram, not Twitter.
Not Twitter.
What's going on, family?
Going on? Oh, man, it's a somber moment. As we know, one of the best beloved MCs passed yesterday. Dark Man X, DMX. And it's taken away a lot of air from a lot of the news outlets and a lot of people's lives, as DMX did place, a mark on many people's lives with his addictions and things that he spoke about and his testimonials. It's just a hard one to grasp, man. As many legends, we're realizing that we come into this twilight of our age group. We're starting to see a lot of our greats pass.
Yeah, I tell you, one of the things I could say about DMX, first of all, rest in peace, DMX. I remember when DMX was just a young beatboxer back in I think it was the late 80s. And I forget the rapper's name who he was beatboxing for, but quickly emerged in the 90s as a writer as well, and then really kind of blew up the scene in the late 90s. And one of the things I can say, about DMX, and one of the things that I appreciate, about his music, is how he bridged generations. And what I mean by that is he's probably the only rapper that I can think of, and maybe there may be some other ones, who was able to kind of bridge the gap from kind of like old school generation into the new school. So meaning what I can say is, DMX is like the first true hip hop artist that I can truly rock out with my sons, at the same time, simultaneously, without me having to go, oh, you guys know who DMX is? You know what I mean? That kind of deal. So he was like that first rapper that we kind of, who came into existence, and we were able to kind of enjoy his music real time without us having to kind of go back, or me going back and try to play, some hip hop of the past, or some of the, the past greats that we had. And he came through in a tough era, I think, in hip hop. He really, at the time when he emerged, hip hop was going through, as we talked about this when we talked about with DNA Beats, it was actually going through that era where, it had the changing of the guards, as we saw, where, we had the conscious rap followed by kind of gangster rap. Then, we saw in the late 90s, the emergence of, the kind of like the shiny suits and more kind of like that R&B club kind of flavor. Or I'll go back and say in the mid 70s, kind of like that disco rap. And DMX was able to kind of emerge, kind of keeping that old school kind of flair in. And it really worked. I mean, I think it was very risky, I think, at that time. Just because understanding, radio was still hot. Radio was still king. That was before, streaming and downloading music came to fruition. So, he still had to rely on radio. And the 1%, as we know, by that time in the late 90s, the 1% had a 100% grasp of radio, and particularly black radio. Black radio was, as you know, Walt, wasn't the same in the late 90s as it was when we were growing up. So for him to be able to emerge in that era, I think it's a story that really is not really told too much. And I think, I'm glad to see, unfortunately, that had to take his passing, but I'm glad to see that, I'm kind of overwhelmed to seeing the response. I'll be quite honest with you. and Elijah, who's producing our show, he was probably going to crack up laughing. I didn't know so many people enjoy DMX music outside of me in my car with my windows rolled up. Apparently, I wasn't the only one, though.
Well, he definitely said earlier in the monologue that he definitely impacted a lot of lives. And like I said, just through his testimonial, he's one of the only few rappers that you can actually say you can identify with, because as he said in his rhymes, I am the streets. I'm from the streets and I am the streets.
Yes.
So when he spoke, he was like the street reverend, like the street pastor.
Yeah.
So he gave you a little bit of testimony, read you a little bit of scripture, but at the same time, he tell you he bust your ass, So, I mean, we definitely lost a great. I mean, he definitely, paved his way and created his own lane with him and the Rough Rider brand, the Swiss Beats, and their whole crew. One of the things I can say about X is that he had a lot of philanthropy behind him as well. A lot of people may not know, but he had his hands into a lot of other ventures, giving back to the community, kids, and things like that. He is left survived by kids and an ex-wife, and he also has a young bride a fiance that he was supposedly going to marry in the future. And he was also working on a couple projects. So hopefully his legacy will be able to live on, carry through his voice and his song and his body of work.
That's right. That's right. And no disrespect to Mr. Prince Phillips, who also passed, but DMX was our Prince. I'm sorry, Mr. Prince Phillips, but you don't hold no weight in our community. And I'm just gonna be. I'm not trying to offend nobody, but I'm just keeping it 100. DMX, exactly. DMX has done far more in his 50 years and living half that man's life. Than Prince Phillips would ever have done. And I'm not just trying to throw it out there and I'm talking ill of the dead, but I'm just kind of keep it real because I can see, and actually I'm not the only one. BBC has taken a huge, they're taking huge criticism by the amount of coverage that they're giving a guy who pretty much played no role or and was no significance outside of taking care of his own family. DMX was a international icon whose music spoke volumes to folks. And it's interesting, like you said, Walt, and I think that's probably one of the reasons why he was able to emerge in such a crowded field. Again, as you think about it too, that was right after Biggie and Pac passed away. At the time in the mid 90s, DMX was able to, speak directly to the black man. If you think about it, for folks who are not in our community, I like how you mentioned that he was kind of like a street preacher. He was truly giving you true insights of the black man, and regardless of what status this man had, the black man had, whether this black man was a preacher or lived a clean life, clean, dirty life. The fact of the matter is we all kind of have demons and we all wrestle with them, whether we express those demons externally or internally. DMX spoke to those pieces. And I think he was a great rapper. I want to ask you this though. Where would you put him out there, man? I know we're quick to throw GOAT statuses on folks after they die, but when you kind of look at some of the greats, and rap is still a pretty young genre of music. I mean, we're only talking about 40 years right now. But where would you put DMX at, Walt? Just
I will put him up in one of the top 10.
Yeah,
I think so. If we're talking about lyricism, he definitely was a great lyricist and wordsmith. And when you think about GOATs and you talk about the aspect of artistry, that has to be one of the main key points you focus upon when you talk about an artist. It has to be the lyrics. And not to take an aside from the spotlight on X for a minute, just like when we were looking at the verses the other day with Earth, Wind, and Fire versus the Isley brothers.
Right.
Their body of work and their catalogs expressively alone dealt with the penmanship and how they dealt with human uh, equalities and love and emotion and compassion and things like that. It dealt to a higher level of self. And it's very rare you come across an artist that will reach the mantra in which they become without that one category lifting them above that plateau of artistry. I mean, you have to have a pen. I mean, you can probably sing, dance, do all that other stuff. I mean, that's a secondary approach to, having a band and good writers.
And I agree. One of the things, and you talk about kind of like the versus, the versus piece, and I believe DMX was on one of those verses,
Yeah,
I
with Snoop
believe,
Dogg.
with Snoop.
It was
Okay,
like,
yeah.
yeah, one of the first couple ones. Yeah, him and
You're
Snoop.
one of the first ones, right? And so what emerged even from that, I remember that, one of the first verses that were coming out and reflecting back on Earth, Wind and Fire and the Isley Brothers and things like that, and just seeing the internet chatter and kind of reminds me too back when Patti LaBelle and Gladys Knight did theirs and Dionne Ward came on. Just that appreciation again, kind of being able to transcend generations of good music. And I think one of the positives of this year of living in a pandemic and living in quarantine, to your point, Walt, is how we as a community really stayed intact as a community. And I'm just going to say this, quite frankly, the Black community
Mhm.
created our own community. I think, and even though it became virtual, right? Because, the Black churches all closed down, the mosque closed down, the Black synagogues closed down. But through this technology, the Black community was able to continue to lean on each other and lean on what we have cherished for so many years to kind of raise our vibration. And I know on several podcasts back, we talked about kind of like the new normal, right? So what does the new normal look like? Well, right now, to me, the normal right now, it's now normal to kind of raise that frequency level where we're at. And I just hope that, with things starting to open up, as vaccines start being rolled out and some other measures that are being taken to attack the COVID-19 virus. I just hope that we will be able to maintain some, remain that piece of the community that I think that we've gathered virtually, and to your point, continue to kind of work towards that higher self, because at the end of the day, that's what DMX, his music did for us. That's what Earth, Wind and Fire. That's what some topics of some folks who are philosophers and things like that. Who come on. That's what we're doing
Right.
through podcasting, giving out free flow of information. Just want to make sure that we continue to kind of stay connected, and continue to raise each other's vibrations. But unfortunately, as things start opening up, we're starting to see some of the ills and monsters of the past and pre-pandemic, meaning
Mhm.
this gun violence. And it's interesting because one of the things I said in one of our beginning podcasts, when we started really going strong with our podcast, when we went into quarantine, I said, one thing you don't got to worry about right now with everybody locked in is you don't got to worry about mass shootings. Well, now
Right.
all these governors and things like that was started with a president who was ill informed, and quite frankly, just in over his head. And I'm not going to mention his name, but the guy, somebody calls him Florida Man. When we had Florida Man occupying the White House, he was just in over his head, and he didn't know how to manage, he didn't know how to. This man couldn't manage his own life, let alone manage a global pandemic. But when we went into shutdown, you know, last year this time, you know, there was a sense of calm. There was a sense of peace, although mixed in with a little fear of the unknown with the virus. But one thing that we didn't have was we didn't have these mass shootings. And then soon as things started opening up, we saw, you know, mass shootings. We saw the shooting of Ahmaud Arbery. We saw, again, police violence return. And we'll talk a little bit about Chauvin's case, him murdering George Floyd, which he's on trial for. We'll talk a little bit about that. But now gun violence, and really this kind of reared its ugly head. And I really think that this is something that we need to really address, Walt, now before you know, we take, you know, before the places open up. As you remember too, one of our founding fathers of this podcast, you know, Malik Z, that was one of the things, God rest his soul, may God be pleased with his works, that he was one of the things that he came on and was talking about the heavy gun violence. And that's something that he dedicated his life to, trying to rid, you know, not just the Philadelphia community, but our whole, the Black community of whole, of this gun violence. But now we've seen that the gun violence is going beyond the Black community. It's in the white communities, in the Asian community. It's pretty much everywhere. It's an epidemic. It's where we're at. So we're coming out of a pandemic and going right back into an epidemic.
Correct, and I can definitely agree with that. The other thing that's a rising issue within our community, and I was talking to another friend of mine. As a matter of fact, he was going to be on the next upcoming podcast. We had one scheduled for yesterday, but you know, due to work-related reasons, he was unable to attend. Octavius Green Jr. And the discussion was in regards to these ghost guns, where you can go on the internet and create a weapon with no serial number, get the ingredients to produce and produce and create pistols. I mean, a weapon, a viable.
Well, I think we lost you.
That can actually be used as a weapon. And with that being said, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Am I here? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, so going back to what I was saying, as far as, you know, these ghost guns, it's like there's no serial numbers, there's no way to really trace them, and the accessibility to the internet, to find ways to you know, that will cause destruction. I mean, they're going to have to really go back in this legislation, man, and put some stops in it. I mean, stop creating legislation. We already have legislation create. People, I think that, you know, the law-abiding body and law officials are going to have to, you know, turn the engines up on it. You know, I know you remember back in the early 90s, there was a DA by the name of Lynn Abraham, you know, and she struck fear in the hearts of these people out here in the community. They didn't think twice about doing crimes because they was afraid of the time. So I think we need to go back and resort to those times to put the fear back these people, to let them know that, you know, this is not going to be tolerated.
Yeah, I think fear is one of them, but I think education is the key to this piece. And I know as part of Biden's gun control executive order, as you mentioned about the ghost guns, that's actually, I think, key number one in his executive order. It is expected to be challenged by the Republicans. Quite frankly, I just don't get it at this point. I don't see the upside in fighting this from a Republican standpoint, other than just becoming obstructionist. I think the notion that you know, these folks are going to take our guns is nonsense. I'm certainly a believer in the Second Amendment. And there's nothing in the Constitution that will tell you that, gun control is a violation of your Second Amendment constitutional rights. A good friend of both of ours, he had called me today. He was at the gun range, and he heard these middle-aged white gentlemen in line, and they were talking. And they were all literally, no pun intended, but literally up in arms about Biden's gun control executive orders that he wrote. And I'm just thinking, like, fools. Are you watching the news? And I think these same guys, I think most of the times these folks and these Trump supporting white Republicans, honestly, I would think if Biden didn't do anything, they would be criticizing him there. So it's kind of like, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. But their go-to line is so tired, and it really is, that if we put in these laws, they're going to take away our guns. Well, here's something that folks should know, and you can look it up on themselves right now. There's probably more legal gun owners now in America than ever before. In fact, the gun sales under President Obama were much higher than under Trump. Which is, and he was supposed to be the guy that they said in 2008 that he was the one that's going to take everybody's guns. When your gun control is exactly what it is. It's not the abolition of guns. It's not the abolition of the Second Amendment. It's control, right? Meaning, do you really need an AR-15 to go hunting deer? Why do you need an AR-15? And so it's
for home protection.
Right, for home protection. What do you need an AR-15 for? And then every time then you see all these mass shootings. 95% of the time it's an AR-15. When the gentleman in Georgia went through shooting, targeting Asian women and murdering them.
Extended clips, buck stocks, and all of that other stuff.
Yes. Then you had the incident in Colorado where a gentleman went out, people were out there getting COVID-19 vaccines and shopping for bread and eggs and, start dodging bullets. And, you know what I mean? One guy came out, he said, man, I didn't know going into the store, getting a soda, I almost died. And then, you had the situation in South Carolina. It's just, it's at a point where it's not really that we're trying to take guns out of your hands, but we want to make sure that the folks who have guns in their hands are, number one, sane individuals, have common sense, and are using it strictly for the reasons of the Constitution, and that is for protection and home protection and protect yourself from home invasion. Anything else is nonsense. It's absolutely nonsense, and it makes no sense. And I stand with President Biden's executive order. I wish that he didn't have to sign an executive order. I wish that we had a competent legislator that can put through laws and put through some common sense gun laws for American people. You know what I mean? So that we could live safely and walk our streets safely. Again, and the only reason why I'm gonna just keep it 100. The only reason why these folks don't care is because, yes, every now and then they have a mass shooting in their communities, but we have the onesies and twosies every day in our community. And if you flip the script, and if this was happening in the white community, you would see gun control. The other thing too, and I'm just gonna keep it 100. If every black man goes out there and buys a gun, you would start seeing these white Republicans start using or heading for gun control. And you say, well, Rob, that's racist what you said.
It'd just be like the Voting Act.
Exactly. And I'm gonna say, no, that's fact. Ronald Reagan actually did that. When the Black Panthers marched on the Sacramento, the capital of California, when Ronald Reagan was the governor of California, and they marched on there with a gun, with their guns legally, first thing he did, he created statewide legislation making it illegal to carry guns on state
property.
property. And none of the Republican people in his party challenged him on that. In fact, they voted in lockstep with him. So it just like any other piece of legislation, it comes down to race. As long as black people are getting killed, it's not a problem. When white folks getting killed, now it's a problem. So it goes with everything that we've talked about, and I think this executive order that President Biden has signed is at least something to kind of move.
Right. And I think a little bit of the conversation get convoluted due to the fact that the legal gun owners are upset that the illegal gun suppliers or users are getting these laws created that will somewhat infringe upon the rights of those that are holding illegally.
Right.
To the contrast, some of it will look like it'll be a barrier for legal gun owners because now you got to walk a finer line because of somebody that's illegal and don't care about the risk and the consequences that's being given. But as they said with 9/11, you got to give a little to get a little. So, I mean, if you're a legal gun owner, you're doing everything you got to do, and you're staying within the rights and regulations of, your permission to carry and do what you need to do as a just and diligent citizen. I don't think you would worry about any of the laws that's being created against these as breaking against not these, but those that are breaking the law.
That's right. You're listening to the All In Politics podcast. You're also watching us on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. If you like the content that you're listening to right now, go over to the All In Network's YouTube page. Just type in All In Network, and up there will come in the All In Politics show. Also on that site, you will hear some sports talk. If you're a sports fan, we have the All In Network Sports Talk Show with Mike Basson and Elijah Cooper. They are the founders of the All In Network. They put together a really fine network with a lot of content on there. But Walt, if folks don't have the content that they need from big corporate media, what should they do when they go over to All In Network's YouTube page?
Oh man, this is going to be a special one for today. I want you to grab any type of device that's operable at the moment that you can download it, whether it's a cell phone, whether it's a laptop, tablet, whatever else. I want you to grab it. I want you to stop, drop, shut them down, open up shop, and smash the subscribe button.
Smash the subscribe button, and also make sure you hit us up on all of our social media outlets. You got Facebook, IG, Twitter, your mama's house, wherever. All In Network, and truly, that's where I'm at. I'm broadcasting from my mama's house. All In Network is global and international. So make sure that you subscribe to all of our social media platform. One final note before we break out of here, Walt. There's a trial going on right now. The prosecution spent all last week in the Derek Chauvin case. Notice we didn't call it the George Floyd trial. It's the Derek Chauvin trial. Let's get it right. Let's get it right. Let's understand who's on trial. He is on trial for murder. He is on trial for murdering an innocent black man. Quite frankly, he should be placed on international trial after this for terrorism. Quite frankly, if it was up to me. But give me your thoughts so far. I know the prosecution put their case out today, and we heard from their witnesses. I believe we should be hearing from the defense to present their case this week. What's your thoughts so far?
From what I've seen so far, the prosecution has laid out a good understanding and focal point for the jurors to look at and dissect. I mean, it was a lot of information. And when it comes to giving the burden of proof to disclaim any shadow of a doubt, I believe they did a good job. The expert witnesses that came on even his own colleagues in the police department, his trainers from the police department, the medical examiner, and all those above that came through this week to give their testimonial adherences to what's going on. I believe they did a good job. My thing is that a lot of stuff that we didn't know in the news earlier on about the 847 or 846 or whatever else, now realizing that it was an extended amount of time and there was no resuscitation used. There was no means of trying to let up on the pressure. I mean, this guy had his hands in his pocket while the other hand was holding on to the wheel. Like, I mean, the things that has been brought to light, I mean, it saddens me, and as I know it does a lot of Americans, to see that the people that's supposed to come and serve and protect are the people that came to serve and break a brother's neck. So hopefully justice will be served, because if it isn't, it's sad to say that you will see another side of America that you have never seen before.
And just so folks, for you young folks out there, Walt just he just quoted a lyric from Ice Cube back in 1990 when he said, talking about police officers, he said to serve, protect, and break a end's neck. And that's interesting. It's interesting where we're at today. Maybe Dr. or Derek Chauvin, when he was a youngster and listened to that music and was always dreaming while he was getting beat up at lunchtime and at recess, he probably always dreamed of doing that, going to the police academy, just so that he can, evoke revenge on the Black community, and evoke terror on the Black community. And we just so hope that justice will prevail. I'll be very guarded in my comments about the trial so far, other than just say that I do think that the prosecution did a fairly decent job. I'll reserve my judgment on things, after it goes to the jury and hear the verdict, to kind of give some more detailed analysis. I am anxious to hear the defense's case. So far, I think the defense has done. I say this: Derek Chauvin's lawyers have done a fairly decent job of disrupting, deflecting, and trying to. They're fighting really hard for their person. And as scum as I think this guy is, he is an American citizen, and he is, how can I say, he should be afforded due justice. You know what I mean? So let's be clear on that. So I just hope that that the jurors, as they review the evidence, take all that into account, this man's life, and really kind of stay focused, because the defense is really good. They're very good at trying to take this trial to other places, and I just hope that the jurors are not falling for the tricks and the schemes of the defense. But
I think the two things.
I'm not mad at him. I'm just say this one last thing. But let me be clear. I am not mad at the defense. If I'll just say this: if I got caught red-handed murdering someone on national and international TV, I think I would want these folks defending me as well. So I think from a legal standpoint, I think that they're doing a pretty good job in trying to sow reasonable doubt, which is their job. So I want to be clear too, Walt, real quick. I want folks to understand, because I get a lot of calls and texts and things like that with folks being upset with the defense attorney. Let's be clear. The defense attorney is not on trial. The defense attorney is actually doing his job. Right. The fact that the defense attorney is even in court is because Derek Chauvin did not do his job. And right. He took the life of another human being. So let's be clear. Let's not deflect our anger to folks who are out there doing their job. The prosecution as well, they're doing their job. There's one man in this courtroom who is the one who is the reason why we are all in here today. Not even George Floyd. It is Derek Chauvin. it was his
Right.
decisions that he made is the reason why we're here. So let's be clear.
Right. So now we're looking at intent and liability. So they're the two number one things you want to look at in this case moving forward. Did he intend to do it? Was it deliberately done, accidental, or whatever else like that? And then the liability. No matter how much drugs George Floyd could have taken, was it a key component or was it the major component that have him pass over? So, like you said, we'll be looking at this in the next upcoming week to dissect it and just bring it back to people and get opinions and facts, and we'll do our weekend review.
Right, right. And finally, a final topic that we want to quickly jump on and touch on, because I think more information is going to come out on this, is the QAnon great Matt Gaetz. And I think Matt Gaetz, one of the themes of QAnon is that they were looking to find the sex traffickers and to stop sex trafficking. So maybe, yeah, Pizzagate and all that other stuff. So I don't know. I mean, I can't tell you if Matt Gaetz is guilty or innocent, but I saw him. I did see him walking out with pizza sauce on his lips the other day. So it ain't looking too good for him. I can tell you, and I just want to hear where all the QAnon folks at. Where remember last year or the year before? Then about last year, Save the Children campaign and all that stuff. Where are they at now? With this clown. I saw that. I think one of the funniest pieces of this case was when this guy was on with Tucker Carlson, another clown from Fox Entertainment. Where they would say he kind of said, I'm not gonna quote him word for word, but he said, hey Tucker, you was there, you remember we was all out together. Tucker was like, did you know? I don't know you. So it's just so funny, man, how these Republicans, man, when one of their own start going down, they all start to get amnesia real quick. And mind you, let's understand this too. I want everyone to understand it was Donald Trump's, and this is the only time I'm gonna mention that clown's name. It was his Justice Department, and I'm just saying his name for clarity, that actually opened up the investigation of Matt Gaetz. Let's be clear, not Biden. Now Biden's folks, they're gonna end it, and they're going, they zeroing in like sharks on this clown. But it was Donald Trump's Justice Department that opened up the investigation. And it's also funny how Matt went to his Lord and Savior Donald Trump and asked him to give him some pardons. At least that was reported. And well, evidently Donald didn't cast out his blessings on him. So but I guess hey, Matt still believes in his Lord and Savior like the rest of these clowns. This guy and Donald did it again. Donald did it like he did it for everybody else, man. Evidently, Matt Gaetz and I'm gonna just say this: evidently, white America, Donald Trump likes Black Lil Wayne better than he likes y'all. What's your thoughts, man?
Well, is that he's claiming that he's free from any liability, culpability, or anything else against this sex trafficking, prostitution, or whatever else you want to call it, but I recall back in 2017, wasn't he the one that voted against the anti-trafficking bill?
He certainly did. He certainly did, man. I can't. Yes, he did vote against that.
But how ironic! How ironic would that be?
That's right. And I'm gonna tell you something. I'm gonna
to know. Mm-hmm.
Go ahead. Yeah, no, go ahead. I'm gonna let you finish.
I was going to say it's funny how, when you're a thief and you're among thieves, you don't want to institute policies and procedures knowing that you're already in violation of. So you protect yourself by blanketing it, throwing a cover over it so you can continue doing your dirty deeds. So now that the chickens have come home to roost and he needs to be held accountable, all those things that he was against is now going to be formally charged against him when it's his time to serve his justice.
That's right. And then they got receipts, right? They got some receipts. They got Cash Apps, Reno, PayPal, checking account, everything. But here's the other piece too, and I'm going to close on this. You always know, man, when they start talking money, right, and they start tracing money, they start grabbing receipts, right. So the prosecutors on this now. Who generally is not too far from the next alphabet boys that are probably going to be in this mix too, right? Anytime you see money and receipts, who's that, Wall? Who do you think that would be? That's probably going to be rearing their heads into this case very shortly to sniff to see if there's any if there's all things are straight and right in his act. Who you think that would be? If not, I'll tell you.
For
Matt Gaetz. Yeah. Who you think is coming next?
There's a couple people I think is coming next. I'm definitely looking at McConnell.
Yeah, well. As far as the alphabet boys, I'm just gonna come out and go out on a limb and make a prediction that the IRS is probably licking their chops right now. Somebody say receipts.
Receipt, exactly. Because you got to remember that money was being crossed against them apps,
right?
And a lot of it wasn't being reported, man.
Right?
So yeah, of course.
So we're talking international commerce, all that good stuff. So
they got themselves in books in Bahamas. Were they in Bahamas and the Caribbean and all over the place, right? Yeah.
So the IRS always gonna want a piece of their booty. So so I want to throw that out there as kind of like a quasi prediction. Don't be surprised, y'all, if they don't find anything on what they have right now, that they definitely will get him on some kind of tax fraud or tax evasion or something like
embezzlement,
that. Embezzlement. So this guy, man, as that article said that we posted just a few minutes ago, it ain't looking good for Matt Gaetz. Well, so Walt, man, great edition, man. Another all in politics episode, covered quite a bit of ground, man, and it's always good to get the folks. Get information out to the folks, and again, we continue to be a platform that is not, corporate owned. We're not owned by, the big giants out there. We're just, small group of young men trying to keep our community informed. So yeah, with that being said, man, let's take us home. I'm ready to go get me a cheesesteak since I'm here in Philly.
Oh man, so yeah, this was another great episode. Once again, rest in peace to DMX, and our condolences out to the Simmons family. Just moving forward, we need to keep the people informed, those that are uninformed. Our platform has always been to give the voice to the voiceless, and to always uplift our communities. I want to say I say to the ancestors and thank you for blessing us to bestowing upon this beautiful day. Peace to the community and peace to, the children growing up. It's a sad state of affairs that they got to see the condition of the way America is right now, but to each one teach one, still practice and stay the 120s and stay positive. And like I said, just keep your head afloat. And I say to the ancestors and God bless.
God bless. Peace.
Peace.